Very informal. It's just a conversation, hearing stories, learning about your life, David's life, the stories that you've gone over in the road. I also have a bunch of questions that folks over online have been like dying to ask you, because I went over like on Instagram and some of the forums and just asked what questions do you have for someone who has a lifetime of history, understanding and researching coin boards, folders, and albums, leaning a little bit more towards the boards. Because what would you like to start out with them knowing about you and your background, as well as yourself?
I don't know. We grew up as neighbors when we were children. Her mom and my dad went to school together, grade school, and we lived across the field from each other. And I ain't going to get to it all when we were kids, but then we started dating each other, and you were in high school yet. I went in the military. That was in 1963 is when I got out of the military. And then we started dating, and we got married in 1965. And by the way, we just celebrated our 59th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
The 24th of this month, April 24th. After that, we had our children. I started working at various little jobs in the beginning, and I ended up starting to work for Dansco Corporation, driving semi-truck to stores in the state. Then they started expanding all over the country.
As a grocery store line, right?
Department store.
Oh, department store, okay.
The grocery division was a separate entity of Dansco Corporation.
Oh, okay.
And they started up Dansco department stores. But it originally was Schmidt's discount stores. That's where I started, and then that got bought out by Dansco.
Don, you drove for 22 years over in trucking. Is that correct?
Total of 60 some years.
60.
I started out with my family. They're in excavating and quad axles and low boys, hauling and digging basements for homes, putting in sewer and water and streets for the local community here. And we did a lot of housing, digging basements and backfilling. And we started with a business with landscaping for 3 years, but we didn't like nothing to do in the wintertime, so we quit that and I went to work driving truck. But my plan was to stay home, and that didn't occur that way after years as all big companies start getting bigger, going out of state, so I ended up being gone all the time. And being gone, I would leave on Saturday afternoon and come home. At first, I'd be home leave like on Monday and come home on Thursday. Then it got to be further out. Leave on Saturday, and hopefully you come home by Friday. Hopefully. A lot of times you wouldn't get home for 2 weeks. Man, you got to get a dispatch load coming back. The key to all of this here, when I drove on the road, and I don't know if it still is today because I've been retired 21 years now. But back then, with trucking, basically, you'd be assigned a load. They'd give it to you on a Thursday night or Friday morning dispatch. And they don't care when you leave because you get paid by the mile. They don't care how you go there, what route you take, as long as you meet your appointments on Monday. And doing that is where I had the opportunity. And do you know about Krause Publications?
I do.
Chet Krause, the owner. We've known him. He belongs to our coin club. And so did Cliff Meshler, Dave Harper. He knows some of them, but he didn't. I don't think he ever met Chet Krause. Well, we would sit with him at our banquets and talk and party. And he started in 1952 publishing the first Krause publication, coin magazine in the industry. And it grew to be so big with all the employees. So back in 1963, I bought my first red book in the military, in the Army, down at Fort Knox, Kentucky. On the weekend, I'd have off, and I took that red book, and I started realizing there was different coins and different things out there. So on the weekends, I'm not home with my wife and the kids. Well, we didn't have kids at the time, but something to do. I'd go to church on Sunday morning and I'd sit in the barracks all day. While other military people and all these, they would go partying on the weekend. That's not me.
In church, they pass what the bowl of was it communal, or you put the coins or money in?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get the urge when it came down to you? You're like, oh,
No.
maybe there's something down there.
No. I didn't think of that at that time.
I would have never thought of that.
I didn't. But it was an all denomination in the military, so all religions go to one church. And doing that afterwards in the barracks on a Sunday, because you had to wait for a reveille on Monday morning. And so I started reading this red book, and I still own it today yet.
That same book?
Same book, yes, I have it right here.
Like the very first year?
No, they started in 1949 or something like that.
I gotcha.
And so I still own it today, and I look at the prices in there, what they were back then. And I talk about that in the book somewhat, uncirculated 1909 for $3.50, and today, good God, you look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come out, started after that with fine, very good. And then it went to MS circulated and uncirculated. I'm going, I've been through all this. And now the grading services starting up in 86 and all of that. So I've been through all of the stuff. And throughout all of that, what got me going was I'm being gone, and Chet Krause made this publication magazine. And so every time it would come out, I would go to a bookstore to buy the magazine. And remember that? I would go, and they used to have them on the shelves at all the bookstores, even in Green Bay, bosses. I'd go pay that price. And then at the same token, when I did that, it would publish all the coin shows and coin shops around the country. Now all of a sudden I'm looking at, I could drive 10 hours, I gotta lay over 8 hours. That's mandated by federal law. I can only drive up to 10, I have to take an 8-hour break. And I can drive again 10 and take an 8-hour break. So that's how you drove. And you didn't have a specific route to follow. So all they care about is you got to your appointment time on Monday morning. So I would attend some coin shows, just some small coin shows back then. And I started realizing coins, and we didn't have any money. I would buy a 50-cent piece for 60, 70 cents. That's all I could afford because I had to live off of what we had. And so those coins, I still have a lot of them yet today.
Is there a favorite series that you have, or Kennedy's?
If there's a die break, whatever it might be, I have every single one of them except a gold piece. I'm not into gold.
Including proofs as well?
Every one, no matter what it is. If there was a die Air Bugs Bunny event or whatever, I have them all. All the DDO 1s and 2s, I have everything. And it takes 3 big, thick albums already. And I'm still going with it.
It blows my mind because I realize that you're talking about visiting all these different coin shops and coin shows around the country. And this was like before the internet, which I can barely even remember. So you would have to look at actual physical maps and figure out the path and the route. And for me, it's just, I just type it into Google Maps and it just makes the plan for me.
I do not use Google. I don't need a map. People call me just about every week. Don, I'm going to go to Indianapolis. I want to go to the convention center and go to a basketball event. I will tell them the road by mile marker, where to stop and eat. When you get downtown Indianapolis, you pick up the I-70, go east, go 4 blocks to Wall Street, off the exit ramp, turn right and go there. Or you can go to California the same way. I'm my own GPS. After that many years, I've watched all the freeways being built.
It's a vastly different time and age.
Eat breakfasts for $1.50. Motel 6s were $6 a night. Super 8 was $8 a night. That's how they all started out.
A question, the same question, but I want you guys to answer it separately. Starting over with you, how many coin shops and shows do you think Don has gone to throughout his life?
It's got to be thousands, I would think, because he would, while he was driving, he would stop at them, and that. And when we take trips, he would stop, plan coin shops, and he always planned quilt shops for me. So yeah, I would say through all those years, it's got to be in the thousands.
Don, do you have a
My turn?
number in mind?
No, I don't. I agree with her. Thousands of coin shops out there. I think we just about hit every one of them that I know of.
Yeah.
Wow.
That in the United States,
And
more than once. More than once.
More than once.
Many times. A lot of them knew us. Throughout that, though, what started was the amazing thing that these coin shops were throwing away this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They still do.
Not so much anymore. I kind of created a big market between me and David Lange on eBay. I know this for a fact. Throughout all of that, she first started with it in Denver, Colorado. At Boulder, Colorado, there was a coin shop on top of the hill. That was the first time we come off the Eisenhower Tunnel coming down off the 70. And if you're going westbound, it's on the right, up on top of the hill. We walked into that store. You tell the rest.
Well, they were taking coins out of those blue folders, whatever.
The Whitman.
Whitman.
Yeah. And they'd rip them up and throw them in the garbage. It's like, well, why are you throwing them away? And
I
they
told them
were
I'll
just-
buy them from you.
yeah. Then
And
they
it-
gave them some.
Yeah.
They didn't even charge.
They go, "Are you for real?" You go, no, that's a long time ago. I don't know when. But then after that, we started. My idea was I put coins on hold. This caught my attention for a long time, collecting all the different variations, and then pretty quick. Like Scotsman coins in St. Louis. They would call, "Don, we got another box of old albums and books to store on your way through. Stop and pick them up." We would pull over to the side of the road and double park, run inside, and give them $50 gone. We did a lot of that. Then they start shipping them to my house because
Would they ask for permission, or would you have some folks just ship it to you and then call and let you know this is coming?
oh yeah, I had that too.
I'm curious, how many books, albums, boards do you think you have handled in your entire numismatic career?
I would say Whitman blue folders alone, we probably opened and looked at 10,000, 100,000 of them.
A lot, an awful lot, yes.
I couldn't tell you. I would cherry pick them after a while because after a while I had so many of them. We talk about one story in there where it was in Milwaukee, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we had another one in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where we walked in the store, stopped. I don't know why or what, but we knew about the dealer. We went into the store, and behind his counter, he had them all piled in stacks with Whitman blue folders. Dansco just loaded down. And we went to a coin show in Detroit, and we were on our way back home. And I was anticipating getting a few folders. We walked in the store, and he said, $20, can you take all this behind our counter? Well, there was every publication, a monthly publication of, you might have seen some of that a couple of years back.
I don't recall seeing those.
But there were boxes full of them. They're so heavy.
Like the numismatist?
The numismatist, that's what it was. The white little yellow folder, or white yellowish.
The one that the A&A sends out every...
So I had every one of them for 25, 30 years. That came along in the collection for $20, plus all the folders and albums. Back then, everything was so cheap,
Yeah.
But we've had that happen. The largest collection we took in was 1,013 Whitman folders at one time.
Yeah.
And did she get rich off of that one?
Oh, yeah? Oh, is that the one
Not
full
just
of silver coins?
They had
Walking.
some, yes.
Some of them, no,
Yeah,
just a few of them.
unfortunately, yeah.
They were full. Walking Liberty, $50, Barbercore, or
When you say full, like the entire series in that book?
no, there were
no, they
like
were
full
just-
pages, 30, 50 of them in there that were still in the books.
Yeah.
They must have bought the collections
Never went through it.
and just
Yeah.
set them downstairs, and they kept piling them in the corner and the cobwebs and all of this stuff. And they didn't even, when you first asked them for coin boards, we don't have none.
That's
You went down them steep steps in
Oh
that
my
couple
God,
of
yes.
days.
Speaking about coin boards, how did that passion and that research emerge?
That's so long ago, I don't know.
Yes.
It caught my eye. I thought, wow, you can display this and put it on a wall and hang it up in a picture frame.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen them all over the country in coin shops, and I don't know what possessed it. I started to realize it's so brightful, beautiful, different colors. I don't know. And then I took an interest in it, and they were given. We didn't buy any of them at first.
No.
They were all given to us for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started realizing all the different variations, and that's what caught my attention. I was going to the Pan show in Pennsylvania, the big coin show there, and we were doing quilt shops along the way. That's how we did that after we retired. And we would always take trips and share 50-50 each way.
Oh, that's nice.
We'd stop.
Coin shop.
It
Cool
was
shop.
nothing for us to go see our son in California after he retired with 52 stops.
52 stops.
All the back roads in the USA, every time I would take a different route. Not the freeways, I'd run the back roads. We'd go to quilt shops and coin shops all the way out, take a different route all the way back home. I didn't need a map. I just...
So during those 52 stops, how often would you two walk in and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, welcome back. It's good seeing you again."
We've had that a lot.
Yeah.
But the minimum would be, if we take a 9-day trip, we might leave Green Bay, go to Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota, down to St. Louis, Missouri, and we had every quilt shop and coin shop in the state, circling around back and forth, and come back in 9 days or 7 days. We did a lot of road trips like that, and we do it going west. We go east. This is after I retired, because when the truck was there, we always did it with a truck, but we couldn't do as many stops. After we retired, we could do more, and that's 21 years ago.
Because I imagine with a full truck, I couldn't imagine like you would be going into Manhattan for like a coin shop there, because everything's just so much tighter in the cities.
Yes.
You still did.
I was in New York City just about every other week. Downtown, Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Bronx, all over.
With a full truck.
Full load.
Marie, I want to ask you this question, since when you visit a coin shop, not necessarily through like a numismatic mind, and you've been in shops all around the country, did you notice like different personality types based on regions with shows and which shops? And I'm wondering if there's a difference that maybe Dawn would notice compared to you.
Well, I would tell them on some of these shops how messy they were.
A lot of them were junk stores almost.
Without a doubt, yes, very messy. I'm a clean freak, so I do not like having junk laying around. So yeah, that I did notice.
Dawn, is there something you would add, or something
I
you
would notice when she'd walk in the store, if it was trashy looking, I'll see you out in the truck or the car.
Following up somewhat on this, a lot of coin collectors, their spouses aren't as very much into the hobby as they are, and I've made the mistake of like paying too much attention to my hobby, and sometimes my wife feels a little bit neglected. I feel like some of us fall into that realm. What advice would you give for men out there?
I'll tell you right now, you got to share 50-50 across the board. If I get 8 coin shops, she's going to get 8 or 9 quilt shops. This is what we do. We always do that. We want to make sure we both have a good, happy time. And that, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, yeah.
That's what we would do. We would share. I share her hobby like she shares me. It's same with her cross stitching. I can remember back in the 70s. You should bring some of them out once.
Well, there's 2 pictures right up there
This kind of stuff
that
she
I did.
does all that stitching.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. But there's tons of them.
Yeah. 2 of them.
I would go out of my way if she's at home with the kids and I'm delivering department stores. I would buy them for 25 cents in the store, and it talks about how to thread or cross stitch. I would bring these books home, and they don't take up much space, and I'd always give them to her. Oh, wow, where'd you get this? Oh, I don't know. Oh, Nebraska, at some discounter department store. Because when you're unloading, you got time to sit. I would run in that store and go find something that pertains to what she wants. And I would buy my own big boxes of 96 rolls of the thread she needs, surprise her and bring it home.
Marie, was there a moment where he came home and said, I crocheted this for you?
He wouldn't know how to do it.
Jumping back into the coin world a little bit, was there a moment that it hit you with the coin boards and the folders and albums? I'm going to write a book.
No, that never. I never even gave that a thought. And the only reason I written a book was because of Cliff Meschler from Numismatic News, the editor. He persuaded me because he saw what I was doing, and nobody in the country was doing this. Nobody. And he persuaded me somewhat to start printing a book. Well, I don't know how to print a book. I don't know nothing about this. He's the editor at Numismatic News all his life. Then Dave Herbert took over, but Chet Krause had it first. And we knew all these people because they're so close by. People throughout the United States, if we go to Vegas, people out there, if you mention Cliff Meschler, they all know him because of the 500 some books and knowledge and stuff that Joel Edler, all these guys, and Bob Whittier would write all these books. Well, they all were club members in our club at one time because they're so close by.
You should mention Michelle.
Oh, this is our daughter.
She
writes poems.
She wrote this
Oh yeah, that's
for
all.
you or about you, would you say?
She shocked
probably both.
She shocked us.
Has she taken up either of your hobbies?
All of our children, they fully are aware of what we have. Our son Lee will buy out in California. He's into 100-ounce bars and stuff like this, buy and selling. They're all aware of coins because every one of our children grew up with that. And when they were babies and forward, coins and stamps. That's what our hobbies were. Even at home when I was home, that's what we did. Just like you met our great-granddaughter yesterday at the coin show. Today, she's 13 years old. She started in the coin club 3 years ago. And when I bought 168,000 wheat pennies. And I made a proposition for her when she was 10 years old. I said, I need to sort out these buckets and pails full of pennies. Could you sort them out by the teens to 20s and 30s? And then I wanted to make it fair and bag them in 5,000 in a bag. I filled up 16 bags with 5,000 pennies, and the rest I started selling separately in different quantities of 1,000 or 250. But 16 of them were filled. So that was her job, and she started looking at this, and pretty quick, oh, this one is more shinier than that one. And the next thing is it caught her eye, and I said, I'll tell you what I'll do, Victoria. I'm going to give you the Whitman folders all the way back to 1909 to forward. Anything you find in here, you get to keep. Okay?
Ooh, smart.
And she says, even if it's not very good, she didn't know how to grade them or not back then. And she would look at it, oh, okay, I got this one. All of a sudden, she sees one that looks better for the same date. And I had to teach her mint marks. Pretty quick, she started realizing there's more to this, and it became a hobby. And
yeah, she's come a long way in the last 3 years at the show.
look what she did to Roger
Yeah.
that one day. Roger brought a box of old coins in, all pennies from 1909 forward. And he just, in 2x2 milers, and he said to the kids at our meeting, you all can pick one coin out of here and you can get to keep it. We try to get kids involved. Well, he gave the box to Victoria. She cherry picked out of that box a 22D penny. And Roger goes, what did he say? What?
I didn't know that was in there.
He goes, I didn't know that was in there. Well, he made a promise, and she cherry picked it. And that's when Roger realized this girl's, she does cherry picking.
You said you gave her 150,000 wheat pennies to go through.
168.
168. Was she able to completely fill out that Whitman?
I had to help her out a lot on it.
But did she fill out that folder that you gave
Oh,
her?
no, there was the 1909 SVDB missing.
I was going to ask if she found one of those.
No, got almost all the rest of them.
That is good to know that someone sorted 168,000 and did not find a single '09 SVBD. That is good to know. Were there moments where you caught her where she's like, oh, you really got to really look deep, and it's like a SVBD, or she might think she has that.
A lot of times she would go, Grandma, look what I got here. She'd get all excited. When she comes to the meeting, and we're all sitting there and we're talking about, Alan could bring up a coin like this, or somebody will be asking about grading this. She's on her computer before we get done. Oh, here it is. Here's how much it's worth. We see that.
Yeah.
Have you seen like any of the older guys just turn to her and be like, what grade do you think this is? I trust your
She
opinion.
does that once in a great while.
Yeah.
Speaking about Chet Krause, and I'm thinking about Krause Publications. Does the name Alan Herbert ring a bell?
I know him. When he was alive, I knew him.
I would love to know more, just like background on him. Because the reason why I ask is the first set of albums that, it wasn't really albums, it was the Warmans folders that Krause was publishing for a while. And I bought one of their starter sets, and Alan Herbert wrote Beginner's Guide to Coin Collecting. And he jumps out over to me because he came across as a very grouchy but caring mentor. It's like I was sitting next to him. He's like, I'm going to tell you straight up what you need to know. And
that's the way he was. His most noted stuff that he did in his life was producing the books on errors and all the things that went wrong at the mint, or how you could classify this and that.
he was the guy.
He was the guy.
I've got some questions over from folks online who really would love to pick your brain. First question actually is about a modern album. Why, oh why, did Dansco with the Continental Line change the position of the 1909 VDB Cent slot in the 1909 to 1958 cent slot? Any insights on like why they changed the position of some of the ports compared to others?
That I do not know.
Totally fair. Totally fair. The next one is, what do you think was the peak in album sales and folder sales and board sales over the years?
Year-wise?
Yeah.
1940, right after the war, during the war, was a lot of people buying coin boards, folders, and Whitmans. In the Depression era, people didn't have nothing to do. I mean, and you could buy a board for 10 cents, 25 cents. So that took off a lot. Then in 1963 through 67, Red Book just kept producing millions of books, and that started selling a hobby like with me in 1963, the same thing. I see those as the point where the craze came into coins. I also noted that rolls of coins started hitting the craze, especially penny rolls from the 60s to the 69 era. Everybody wanted to buy rolls. That created a big market. Also, the big change from just back in the 60s, it was good, fine,
You actually find some silver.
extra fine, and uncirculated. When that craze started changing, that made a big difference in people getting into the hobby.
So around the 60s for albums and folders, and around the wartime for
magazines,
boards.
and yes.
Why did things die down? Would you say things have died down or plateaued?
Economy.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Just people were struggling more and just it's not as popular?
Yeah.
But there were boom years
Yes.
after the 60s.
Oh yeah, there's some in the 80s and 2000 early. That's based on people's wages. I mean, if you ain't got the money, you're not going to get involved in it. First comes your life, not the hobby.
What do you think is the future of where this hobby is going? A lot of people have expressed concerns of next generation. They don't like physical currency is not a thing anymore. People are using credit cards and whatnot.
I see that happening, and I begin to wonder myself, where will the coin industry and all of this go to? But I do see, just like any antique, you watch Pawn Stars, you watch American Pickers, stuff way back in the early days. They're paying a fortune for it, even though it does not exist. It's still there. So you're always going to have this competitiveness of people wanting to buy this. And so everybody looks at mintages. and they think, all right, we'll watch the mintage. If it's a low mintage, we're going to buy. This is the way I feel. My opinion is, if you're going to buy something from the U.S. Mint, if they publish too much and they sell it higher than what it's worth, and I've already written to the Mint on different subjects, they know what I will do. I've seen where they overprice the product to make a profit. They got to make a profit because they're the largest coin dealer in the world, and they got to make a profit. But once it gets out there, if they make too many, all of a sudden the person had paid $50 for it, now it's only worth 35. That's the bad part of it. And what that does is create people not wanting to buy anymore. But then at the same token, then they'll change their mind and we'll make a lower production. All of a sudden, the market comes back. I see that. And I see that with gold and silver. Depending on the economy, they're like the stock market. You can't tell from one hour to the next.
It's interesting. You talk about mintages, and it seems like I'm getting a sense that there is hope for the future of the coin hobby.
Yes. I have a collection of stamps that were complete from 1930 to 1996. It's every stamp made, issued, whether it's air mail, airborne, partial post, all never been hinged or gummed, no creases. It was a one-of-a-kind collection that the U.S. Postal Service back in 1996 asked me to put it on display at the brand new post office in De Pere. And they had sent the semi-truck from Chicago with the easel boards, and I set up 2 displays 60 feet long, 2 rows, with them all on display, and they had all the networks come and look at it. And then when it was all done that day, they presented us a...
It is
You want to see it?
Picture.
You got to get real close to it. And it talks about my wife and how she got me stamps and stuff. You might want to get that real close there. It talks about they asked Marie in an interview, what was the most expensive stamp you ever bought me? That's listed in there. The hardest stamp to find for Don was the $5 stamp, 1938 postage stamp. She found it at a Fidelity show in New York. That's where she got it.
How much is that worth now, would you say?
I have no idea. This is back in 1996. Back then, people were interested in that. But then all of a sudden, postal stamps start producing. The reason I quit, there were 60 variations in 1 year. And I thought, they're not worth nothing anymore. They're just mass producing. And that just brought this all downhill.
Another question. Do you know anything about the original, I think it's called Beistle Unique Coin albums?
Beistle's under another name, though. That Beistle was made by Wayte Raymond. That's right. That's the...
It would explain why it looks the same.
You got me puzzled here. Hang on. I'll show you Beistle.
Perhaps that was the initial album, and then Wayte Raymond bought the rights and changed the name, similar to Kent boards being bought over by Whitman.
Yes. This is the unique holder. That's made by Beistle.
Ah, I see. Wayte Raymond purchased the rights to manufacture and distribute. And on the front cover at the bottom, it states, the economical, practical, all visible coin holders made under the original patent, now exclusively used in national and popular coin albums, Wayte Raymond. Apparently that happened in 1957. So to the person who asked this question, if you don't have this book, buy it, and it's on page 78 and 79. Do you know the actual dates, these logos, and I'll show you the pictures, when these logos were used for the large Wayte Raymond boards? Below was as far as I got finding when each was used. And they're pointing out over here. They're trying to figure out when these logos were actually
All right,
used.
first of all, these logo numbers, that is the distribution of the actual album. There's a code number on there. If you look down on the third line, see that number there? It starts with an M, an N. What's his name passed away?
David.
When David Lange passed away in his
Thank you.
book, all of those binders that were there, those binders is telling you what date they were produced. So he thought he had them all. When I got the book, I called him. I said I had between 8 or 12 more different variations than he had in his book. And he was amazed at that. So I had sent him all these numbers that he did not. You want me to get the book? Show you what he did? See these code numbers right here? Here's what we're talking about. Page 81. That's on the large size binders. I was filling in a lot of these more numbers that he did not have. And so he was in a position. He didn't want the album, but I gave him the numbers to verify for future add-ons to this book. He thought he had them all. And it talks about them in here, but then here's small pages. That's the one where I had really a lot of them. Right here. See how many he's got in there? I was filling them all in for him. And he never got them in the new book yet.
Was David planning on another edition of?
Yes, he was telling me, like the first book on coin boards. Do you recall how many different pages he would print out all the time to all his newsletter people? He was kept adding on additions, and supplements. Some were from me. I'm listed in a lot of them. It's like the Whitman blue folder I showed you yesterday.
The prototype one.
Yeah, the first prototype. That's just like the half dime. He's got it listed as it's known to exist, but he didn't own it. I have it. So it's in my collection.
When you say first prototype, is that the actual first that
prototype
ever printed, or is that like the first version?
First version drawn up to put on the production line. Same with the coin boards. He owns. Did I sell you one?
The prototypes?
Yeah. Did you get a prototype of the big large coin? No.
Yeah.
Or did I sell
there's some prototypes there in the 40-foot display.
There is one on the display. It's the first prototype that Joe Kent made. And he come to realize they were too big because they wouldn't fit a standard 11 by picture frame. So when they started first production, he couldn't do the production because you got to remember, he worked at Kimberly-Clark in Neenah, Wisconsin. And he got laid off in the Depression era, and he was trying to find a way of making a living. And he drew up the board. There's a hand-drawn, first one just hand-drawn. And then from there, he made the production of the bigger prototype. When it came to go to Whitman, he went to Whitman to produce them for him. And they had to downsize it, make it smaller. So the first run started right out with a small set.
It's fascinating because I think about the Dansco world. Ervin J. Felix, he was a sales distributor for CC&I, Coins and Currency Institute, over in Southern California. And he started getting a lot of feedback from some of the shop owners of like, yeah, the albums are nice, but I wish they would be better. And he ended up drawing up his own designs for the Continental Line. And then he started talking over with Dansco. And after a couple of years of selling and getting feedback, changing from like the plastic vinyl to the fake leather, Dansco loved it so much that they bought the rights for the Continental Line, and then they changed it to the Brown album, and that's what we have today. So it's kind of cool seeing the parallels with Kent and his boards with Whitman, and then Ervin J. Felix over with the Dansco world. Funny thing is that Ervin then went back over to Whitman, and then Dansco and Whitman has been fighting on the album worlds
This
ever
has
since.
happened in the coin board industry. It's happened in the Whitman blue folder industry. It's happened in the album industry. All when one company manufactures, creates something, like when they first started with these inserts, with the slide inserts, everybody got on board of that. Look at Metric. They followed Dansco. Almost to the T, they changed one letter on the production line. One number. Instead of being 101, they made it 1101. See what they did? And so they copied just each other. Everybody wanted in on the moneymakers.
Let me know if this question makes sense. This person found these first edition blue Whitman folders at a local coin shop. They've talked to David Lange before he passed and confirmed that the Walking Liberty folder that David possessed was the only one known. But he thinks that he found another one. How rare are the first edition folders for Walking Liberty, if that jumps on out?
put it this way, I have a complete set of all 21 first edition Whitman blue folders, plus the prototype. I think I showed you that. They're all there. David Lange did not have the half dime one. It's in his book. It has a circle with no dot in it. I have it. Through all of this, they're all rare. Every single one of them. I paid as much as $35 to $45 for some of my own when I found them. I bought maybe 4 or 5 of them from David Lange. The rest I accumulated throughout our travels. And they're so rare, when I find one, we can go through what, 500, 800 of them, and I might find one in rough shape. It's like trying to find a like a 14D penny. Same thing.
What would you say is the rarest first edition album that is within reason that someone could find at a coin shop?
The half cent.
The half cent. How much would you think that's worth in good to find condition?
Good to find?
I'd say good. Probably hard to find mint state.
Mine are almost all mint. Not quite, but that's a good question.
I'm trying to spur people. When
I
they go to
would I would
shops.
say if I could buy one for $50, it's gone. That's me.
That's fair. That I always love asking these questions because then folks are like, oh, maybe when I do go to a shop, I'll keep an eye out for like this specific one.
But for $50, I expect it to be almost flawless. Not quite.
Anything on like foreign thoughts on foreign albums, foreign folders? My impression, having gone through a lot of Dansco and Whitman is pretty fascinating. They've done a good amount of foreign albums, but it seems like that was mostly in the 60s, just like with Dansco albums. Any insights that you can share there on like why did Dansco, why did they do like an Israel album and an Australian album and a New Zealand album, but not other countries? There doesn't seem to be a consistency in thought of like, why were these certain foreign countries focused on and why did it kind of die off expanding out?
I can't answer that question. From time to time, I did get some of this stuff. I did sell a lot of that kind of stuff to the club members, didn't I?
Yeah.
Ireland, Japan, Korea.
Well, a lot of it ended up in Justin's collection.
Oh, you got most of it then?
I did get most of it.
Oh, then you got what I had. Okay.
I secured a good amount of David's estate and a lot of his Dansco albums. David was critical in getting me filling out the rest of my Continental Line series.
So do you have all of these?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
They're my own personal. I'm going to start filling them now.
Do you have the gold type page?
I didn't
at
even
the end?
start yet. No, I don't deal in gold.
It's probably best I don't see the gold page in there. I know it would kill me if I had one.
Oh.
So I was like, I have to fill that out. From David Schwager, Megrig.
David Schwager? Okay, I know. Yeah, he's bought stuff from me.
Yeah, he's asking like Megrig albums. First off, am I saying that right? Megrig, the green ones.
Yeah.
Megrig albums were often clones of Wayte Raymond albums. Like, how did Megrig get away with that?
I don't know.
Were you aware of like any companies that were going to create like a German typeset album or folder?
I did not deal in foreign albums and folders and that. The only person that did was Thomas Moll.
Thomas Moll. Tell me more about him, because I came across his book. That was actually the first book that talked about folders and albums. No one else online has any idea on his background or who he is. He seems to like disappear after.
I felt the same way. I have his book right here in stock.
Did you know him?
No.
I see.
I never met him, didn't know him, but I do have his book.
The search continues on his background. A question about the coin boards. If you put silver coins in them, do you think they'll tone? They'll tone faster?
Yes.
Even faster?
No, just the air contamination. It's like putting a penny or a Morgan dollar on the top of a roll. The toning effects after 20 years. When you open it up, the first one is always toned, or the bottom one. Air gets it. Air is the main concern.
Or have you been aware of like any folders or boards that had Libertads? It's probably not, because Libertads are like Mexican Libertads, like 1984.
I'm not aware of anything about that.
Dansco and the United Nations F.A.O. albums. Any thoughts or insights that you could share on that?
None, really, because my My favorite was coin boards. I started getting more of them, and I'm starting to come up with different things in my book. People go, where did this come from? Well, that's what I have. And David Lange would buy them from me to start. He wants to produce all of these books and all these albums in his future life. That was his goal. Do one every 2-3 years. He would tell me about that. He would talk about this, and he would talk about what's next.
Do you know how far David got along with creating this Dansco book?
No, I don't. I've never seen anything on it. He always kept asking me to give him more information, and I would give him my actual copies. So that's where they all went. Because he called me when he got my book, and he was interested in my information, what I had, and everything I had was true and correct to what he had. But he wanted to know, how did you get this information? And then I had more, and you got to remember, David gets into the history in detail. I do not. You notice that. I make it plain and simple to read, and it's my way. Yeah, look how thick the difference is. And this is covering all of them. This is just one item.
He did love his research.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. We would sit and talk. He would call at nighttime, hour at a time. I would mail him stuff. He would mail me stuff back. He would grade some of my coin boards. He was good on coin boards. Very good.
Better than you?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Better than Chris?
Huh?
Better than Chris?
That's a good question. Chris was he's really good at it. You want to talk coin boards, you talk to Chris Buck. He is the man. Because there's so many articles, and I can show you in the newsletters from David Lange. He would talk about me, he would talk about Chris Buck. Me and Chris Buck would find different variations of stuff that he didn't even know existed. And we had the only two. He would always try to get one from us. But Chris Buck was always on top of everything. He still is today.
If and when I get a chance to talk to Chris, I'll ask him the same question. What do you think David was more knowledgeable than you, and see how he responds to that?
That'd be a good question.
What do you think? What do you want folks to, when they hear the name David Lange, what do you want them to think about?
He was very, very knowledgeable. He knew his material. Man, inside out. We always talked. He always wanted to know what I had to say, but he knew the stuff already until I come up with new items. That always created a market for him. He was determined to buy it from me one way or another. Like the Crest albums, he had a couple pages or something. All of a sudden, I got complete collections of it. You know, do you have that?
I have the Crest. Yes.
He's got the complete collection. And I did sell some to Dave, but not much. Just enough because in the future he wanted to write about it.
Yeah, I heard after Dansco, he may have gone after other albums after.
He was going to keep going, one by one, the largest, and go right down the line. That's what I interpreted it as.
He left a very big legacy.
Yes,
a lot of folks miss him.
Yes, he did. And we had to go down there and help out, and I'll leave it at that.
Alan, as you listen through, any questions that are jumping out over for you?
Well, I know that, Don, with your collecting over the years, and you wrote the 3 volumes on your book. Where have you displayed that? I know that you have taken your collection on the road to different coin shows, and that there's been a number of articles published about your collection. Tell us a little bit about that.
First one was in 2015 at the Numismatics of Wisconsin State Convention Show. Again, Cliff Mishler, he's the one that urged me to do this all. Mm-hmm. And it impressed people. And most dealers, you would recall that one, dealers that were there, what's a coin board?
Yes. Yeah.
There was a lot of them that are coin dealers didn't even know what they were. And
even the older coin dealers, or
no, it was. I don't know which ones were. All I know is if there was 50 dealers there, 15, 20 of them didn't know what a coin board was. and I would give little talks to people and talk about what era, and I would do presentations like 10, 12 minutes at a time. Like the last show in Rockford, Illinois, I did 17 or 18 of them. Every 10 minutes I would do a presentation. I would have anywhere from 5 to 10 people stand, and every one of them would look at, wow, one copied each other right down the line. 1 year after next, this one started, then that one. And like this book states, these are opinions and expressed by me as the author. I don't know what other people think. I look at what I see, what I've done, and I'm proud of it. I like it. I'm just surprised how I'm being acknowledged over all of this. Wow, that's blowing my mind. I did not expect any of this.
Nice.
I go on eBay and I see things from stuff I've done, and I'm going, oh. Yesterday one popped up. I go, well, what's this about now?
It's fun reflecting on this entire hobby. I was talking with Alan about this yesterday. It's like for us, my view, I don't think we actually own any of the things that we collect. We're just temporary
Holding it to
caretakers.
preserving it.
Exactly. And not only are we holding it on to preserve and give it to the next generation, you know, I feel like it's on us to add a little bit of ourselves as we hold it on. And in our way, it's the research and additional insights and knowledge so that when it goes to the next generation, they know a little bit more.
When you see something and you don't have it, and you got it in your collection, but you don't have that urge is there, you know, and just like Marie with quilting, you see something, your urge is, oh, I got to go get more thread. I got to get this piece. This has got to be just right. I mean, we're that way.
I'm right there with you. I get it. Don, it's been an immense pleasure. Thank you, Marie, Alan.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank
Appreciate
you.
you guys taking the time.